Do you remember taking this picture?
I remember this picture, not so much for the girls, which is on the balcony, but for the architecture. It's quite a remarkable, I think, 6 blocks of flats in Wrocław, in the south of Poland, and built in the 70s. And it was by East European standards, there was a rather revolutionary architecture. They call the Wrocław inhabitants call it Manhattan for some reason. But I remember it simply because I think a photographer always needs human interest in a photograph, which means if there's no person in it, then it can be pretty dodgy as a photograph. And I was in Wrocław doing a story for a German magazine on the city, and I was interested in these buildings, so I managed to get into one similar building opposite to this one. I was standing on a balcony as well.
Who let you on there? But did you have to knock and ask if they let you on?
I just knocked and asked, of course. And
back then, there was
in those days there were no little telephones downstairs to ring and say, "I'm a photographer. Can I come up and see into your?"
No, but how do you? I mean, you knock on someone's door and ask them, "Can I use your balcony to take a picture?" Or?
More or less, yes.
And people let you do that.
Well, they're so surprised that they usually.
They just barge past them.
95% of the time, when I ever did this, I always like to be above street level. There was no problem. Only sometimes if there was a little old lady or something, she would be frightened. But otherwise,
but you just push her away.
But I remember once in Warsaw. I remember a moment when there was a young mother breastfeeding her child. She opened the door and said, "Oh, come in." So I went to the window and
took her picture.
What I wanted. Yeah. But in this case, I was just standing on the balcony with a long lens, trying to get the sort of the graphic design of this architecture, and just hoping that somebody would actually appear on the balcony, because Polish balconies are such that nobody really uses them. And suddenly this girl came out and
posed for you, because it looks like she's posing.
I don't think she can see me, but after 30 or 40 years, she was found through Facebook or the local TV or something. They managed to find the Museum of Architecture in Wrocław was interested in this, in my pictures, and they started a campaign to find the girl on the picture.
And she'd never seen the picture until they found her.
Probably not.
Do you remember talking to her? Was she surprised that she'd been
I met her,
immortalized like this?
I did meet her a few years ago because there was a film being made about the whole complex of blocks of flats, and her name is Aneta. And she's a dentist technician. She lives outside Wrocław, but she told me that she simply that she was studying. She was studying to be a dentist in Wrocław in 1982, because this is summer of '82. And she was studying, and she borrowed this apartment from a friend.
Oh, so it wasn't her apartment?
No, it wasn't her apartment. No, she borrowed it from her because she wanted to spend 2 weeks studying for her exams. To become a dentist, of course, and she just felt a bit she needed some fresh air, and she said she walked out on the balcony, and she says she looks a bit different now, of course, but she says she recognized it because of the towel on the
towel, not the dress.
She had a towel like that. But I must say there were other girls who wanted to be that girl on the picture.
Already, they were claiming to be this woman.
There's always somebody. So you have to be pretty careful who you choose to actually be the one. But she said that she remembered that towel, which is maybe true.
Because the dress is much more memorable than the towel.
Maybe, yes, of course. But it's a perfect model. But she had no idea I was photographing her.
And she didn't mind? She didn't mind?
No. She became famous all of a sudden. No. I think this is the difference now. Because in the old days, if you were on pictures which were published or whatever, you were very happy to be on somebody's photograph.
Well, today it's
Nowadays, the first thing you do is go to a lawyer and try and sort of nail the photographer and
well, yeah, I understand that too.
get a
But
fortune.
but today
Yeah.
you have trouble these days shooting people in the street in their natural habitat.
I think the European laws are, but I guess it's the same in the States. They're very strict as to who and when we can photograph somebody on a street in a public place.
Well, it's one thing to photograph, and quite another to publish that
It's
image
publishing is the problem, of course.
without the consent
But
of
it's killing street photography because people. I mean, when I've been doing the last few years, I've done a few books on several cities in Poland, and I've always been careful to make sure that
you can't actually tell anyone.
well, that you can, as little as possible, they can actually identify someone, and you end up photographing people from behind, which is silly. I mean, the photography doesn't like people.
So if you'd like a street portrait, you have to ask for permission and ideally
and get a but that's
you walk around with these.
No. But I remember in America, even in '86, when I was part of the project doing a day in the life of America.
Mm-hmm.
We were given a whole pads of things which we had to have people sign, which I found most embarrassing, really, because by the time you ask somebody, there's no picture. I mean, a photographer, street photographer.
I mean, for that book, you were concentrating on a particular family, whereas
yes, that was true.
if you're just shooting a street scene or something.
But I did photograph other people on the street. Well, we had 24 hours to shoot on one day, 200 photographers all over America, and we had 24 hours to shoot. But I can't remember taking signatures from anybody.
It is a very particular building, or 6 buildings. So, yeah.
Well, they're famous, I guess, in East European architecture because they are completely different from the usual grey, like on this picture, these grey, huge concrete blocks, apartment blocks, which are always boring and uninteresting, whereas this was interesting.
Well, I remember reading that the style of these buildings was inspired by the bridge that which they overlook.
The bridge. I'm trying to figure out where the inspiration
Apparently,
was.
the bridge is Art Nouveau, and this was supposed to the shapes of these concrete balconies and windows.
It's an odd version of the bridge, put it that way. Yes,
they're supposed to echo that. And the natives of Wrocław have a very particular name for these buildings.
They call it lavatory seats for some reason, but it's also called Manhattan. So Manhattan is slightly better.
I think the lavatory seats come from the shape of the windows, or
different to say the shape of the balconies.
Yeah.
I think it looks like a whole building full of lavatory seats.
Yeah.
but that's only for the good. I think that's a good idea. It's not.
That's a very Polish thing.
I wouldn't be offended. Yeah.
So do you remember when she came out? Did you think, this is it? This is the shot? I've got it?
That's my future wife, as I say. No, I think it was just good to see somebody on the balcony because all these balconies, tens of dozens of balconies completely empty. And I thought, well, let's wait.
Because this must have been what, summer? Daytime
this was the hot summer of 1982.
And there was
martial law.
This was 1982, right?
The first summer of martial law.
So she came out. I mean, you were shooting from one building and could see at least 2 or 3 others. And so you were scanning them to see if someone would come out. And then what, you saw some movement, you saw a flash of color and zoomed in.
Like an eagle's eye.
Yeah.
I saw a movement, so I immediately know what to catch.
So do you remember seeing this image for the first time?
But sometime later when I got the pictures back.
When was that, though?
Must have been months or a year or later. I mean,
because a lot of these images you saw only for the first time after like 30 years or something.
Some images.
But this was not one of those.
No, but it came back to me eventually. But that was the whole wonder of analog photography was the fact that you had no idea what how well you were shooting. That's why we had to be better then. We had to shoot knowing that we were shooting something good. And in those days you couldn't correct it.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you can just put it into Photoshop and one filter, and you're okay. In those days, it was a problem for a magazine if it was too blue or too dark or too light. Color slides were very delicate in that respect. You had to be spot on both with the color and with the exposure.
So, what was the brief from Geo? What did they say? What was the story you were shooting
We're
for?
doing a story on Breslau, as they call it.
Did they give you a list of things, places they wanted to see?
Nothing. I never really worked in nobody who I worked for, whether it was the American magazine, news magazines, or a magazine like the German Girl. Nobody ever gave me any instructions. This is partly people think the propaganda against the Western press in the communist days was such that the journalists and the photographers were given instructions as to what to photograph. And that's why there's such terrible pictures showing these huge lines or whatever, God knows what. But in my life, working for the big magazines, I never had a single instruction, actually.
So how did you approach the story? You went to Wrocław?
I went to Wrocław and I just
looked around.
Hang around. Yes, it's you look, you smell, you see, you sometimes sometimes maybe talk to people, which is rare with me.
You try not to,
but I try not to talk to people. Yeah,
just shoot them from afar.
Yeah, but I think really just walking around is the best. Nowadays, I never take a car to a city I'm photographing. I count on taxi drivers because they know the city.
Yeah.
So I said, well, listen, I'm here to photograph the city. Can you sort of show me something you?
So you do no research yourself?
Very basic research. I'm a basic researcher.
And they never asked what you were doing, why you were doing it?
Well, I tell them straight away. I mean, listen, I'm photographing this city for whoever, and so I've no idea where I want to go, but just take me around and give me the bill. But sometimes when I was working for the Time or Newsweek, if we were going off to a country, say to Yugoslavia, well, the former Yugoslavia, or in Kosovo or something, I used to read up a bit about where I'm going because the journalist I was traveling with.
So you would do research?
Basic research, but you have to remember that in those days, in the 80s, there was no
internet.
There was no internet, so I had to go to a library. My goodness, this is fascinating.
You go to a library and get an encyclopedia or a travel book?
Give me a book on Kosovo or something. And that's what. But it actually worked. I mean, I remember. I had no idea what I was going to expect there, but I read up that in Kosovo, it was the Albanians were trying to, the Albanian inhabitants of Kosovo were desperately trying to get rid of the Serbs. So they would have as many babies, they were bred like rabbits. They would have as many babies as they could, so as to, by sheer numbers, to have so many Albanians that the Serbs would eventually go. And so I said, okay, in that case, I'll have to organize a visit to a maternity hospital, and that picture ran. I mean, there was a whole line of little cocoons, two babies to a bed, crying or not crying, very well swaddled actually. But and that was the picture that ran. So sometimes a bit of research is useful, and that was the library, of course. Not, but because I read that the highest birth rate in Europe was in Kosovo at that point.
Because of this strategy of outnumbering,
of getting rid of the Serbs. So that was so. It sometimes helps to do a bit of research, but I'm usually open-minded, simply, which comes from laziness probably. But it's open-minded about what I'm about to expect. I mean, if I'm going somewhere,
you also keep your eyes open and make sure that you see everything around you.
Of course. I think walking is the best thing. I remember when I covered Gdansk, I wore out a pair.
Recently?
Well, I was maybe 6-7 years ago. I actually wore out a pair of shoes. I mean,
walking around.
A lot of walking. Yeah.
Well, I'd love to see the same image taken today, possibly with the same lady, and I'd love to see them side by side.
I'll do my best.